Hey everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to my channel, and today we are doing the mid-month wrap-up for the month of June. Can you believe we are halfway through June already? It feels like this year is just flying by. It has been so hot this month in Indiana. I've been wearing my hair up, like not even cute, but just like up, because it's so hot. My hair's just like with the heat, but it's all good. I don't know who just slammed the door down there, but hello, slamming doors, old people. Probably my dad. Anyway, and then part two of me rambling at the beginning of my videos, like I do, is that I am playing around with editing of my YouTube videos, and I'm also obviously working on podcasts for my sister. We're trying to learn some new skills. We've started a new business. If you haven't found it yet, that's okay. It's called Quickly Virtual Services. It is a virtual services business where we do social media management and editing and proofreading and several other different like general admin type tasks. So we are trying to learn how to do more video editing and podcast editing so that we could possibly offer these as services down the road. But in order to offer them as services, you have to know how to do them. So we are testing them out with my YouTube channel and with our podcast. So you're welcome. You get to test out my editing skills. We'll see how this goes. Don't know. Also, I'm going to try not to talk with my hands as much because I was told by somebody on Instagram that it's distracting. So I'm a talker. I do a lot of this when I talk. So I'm going to try to like sit on my hands or something. I don't know. Okay. Mid-month wrap up for June. You guys, I read, I don't have my glasses on again because, you know, we got a glare problem and I don't have my bifocals in and I can't read. So I have read, hold up. I have read 7 books and I DNF'd 1. And so I know it's not as many as I would typically read. Like normally, this would be what I read in like 2 weeks. But I'm going to tell you, since buying my first house, it has been horrible. Doing the weekly yard work is a whole thing. Like, it sucks. It is a whole thing. And I love yard work usually, but you have to do it every week. Like, ew. But anyway, it's a whole thing. And so I don't have time to just sit and read every day all the time. So unfortunately, I've only read like, 7.25 books for this month so far. We're going to see how it goes. First 2 books you guys have already heard about. I did Royal Games by T.K.Leigh and I did Tangled Games by T.K.Leigh, which you guys, I have a whole review here. I'm talking with my hands already. I have a whole review up on my channel. You can go back and watch. I don't know how to do the cards, but if I can figure it out, I'll put that up there so you can go back and watch that review if you haven't already. Those are the first 2 that I read, both 5 stars. Loved them, and I gush about them in detail in the video from before. The next 2 I just didn't like. One I DNF'd. The one I DNF'd is called The Director by Renee Rose, and it is a mafia book. Anyway, it's a mafia book, and I'm on a mafia kick, so I thought I would read it. And it's kind of like a secret baby trope / BDSM / I don't even know, but I didn't even get past the first chapter because in the first chapter, the main male character just starts talking about like his kink. And I'm like, first of all, I try to avoid books like that anyway. Like you guys know, I try to read books that have as few sex scenes as possible or that have sex scenes that are easy to skip. So I'm just like, I'm already out. And then I saw the secret baby trope and I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. So I just DNF'd after like 1 chapter. Maybe that's bad, but I just didn't like it. If you've read that book and you liked it, let me know why you liked it, because I did not get past the first chapter. I'm not into all that. Next book I read was called Devil You Hate by J.L. Beck and C. Hallman. This was another book that I didn't really care for. I gave this one 1 star. I came very close to DNFing this, but this book did have one thing going for it, is that it could have been a really good story if they had done it in a different way. So it's a captive. And basically this guy, Nick, who is in the mafia, obviously it's a mafia romance, steals Celia from a rival mafia family with the intention of selling her in like a sex ring. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Cora Riley with, you had Ramo stealing Serafina on her wedding day type thing. It's a similar trope, like the similar idea, but whereas Cora Riley made it like this beautiful love story at the end, this was just like not cute. There was very little relationship building at all. It was more about him controlling her. it was almost like a violent rape fantasy was kind of what it came across like to me. Like there was nothing likable about these characters at all. So you had Celia, who just was like a total pushover. You could just walk all over this chick and didn't stand up for herself at all. No backbone, didn't believe she was worth anything. Just her self-esteem was like in the toilet. And then you have this Nick guy who's just controlling her. He wasn't nice. He was straight up a murderer. He was mean. He was basically raping her in the book. And I'm just like, I don't know why people like this. And the thing is that I've seen this trope done well. The whole mafia family rival people stealing brides. I've seen this done well, obviously, because I recommend Core Riley. But this was not done well. And so I gave it 1 star. And I have no intention of continuing on that series because I didn't like the first book. So, sorry. The next 2 books I actually read on audiobook. Actually, the next 3 books. Yeah, the next 3 books I read on audiobook, which I've been rediscovering audiobooks. I don't usually read a lot of books on audiobook because I prefer to read a book or an ebook. But as I'm working, I like to have noise. And so I've been listening to like other Booktube videos and things like that. And I was like, let me try an audiobook again. Usually I hate them because they're so long, or I don't like the person who's reading it, or they read it too slow. But I ended up playing it and putting it on like 2 times the speed, so they were reading quicker for me, and I really liked it. So I ended up reading Ice Planet Barbarians and the first 2 books in that series. Now, unless you live under a rock, these are all over TikTok right now. Like everybody on TikTok is talking about these books, at least on Book Talk they are. And I don't know why, because this series is a little bit older, and it's funny that it's like making this like comeback and this resurgence that everybody wants to read them. Now, I usually don't like sci-fi at all. You guys know that. So I was like, I've never read them, and I never really wanted to read them because I don't like sci-fi. But when I saw them all over Book Talk, I was like, okay, let me give it a try. I will say that I loved the people reading the ebook, like not the ebook, we call it the audiobook. I loved the audiobook, like narrators or whatever you call them. They did such a good job with this book, so I was highly impressed. So if you don't know, it's a fated mates trope, and it's a sci-fi story where you have these humans that space travel exists. So I guess the humans know that there's planets and spaceships and all that stuff. And these humans are kidnapped by some little green aliens and are being taken to wherever they're being taken to. They don't even know, to be sold off. And they're not sure if they're being sold off to be like food for another species or what, but they've all been tagged. And so basically they've been kidnapped. But while they're being kidnapped, the spaceship crashes into this ice planet. And the little green men run away, and they say they're going to come back and get the girls. Well, these women are like, whatever, we ain't waiting around. So they send off one of the women out to see if they can find like help or another spaceship or something on this ice planet. And while on the ice planet, she runs into a blue alien who is basically like 7 feet tall, blue, with horns and a tail. I'm not kidding you. And he all of a sudden is like, you're my mate. And grabs her because in this planet, these aliens have this thing called Qui that is some kind of like parasitic type thing that's in their bodies that keeps them on this planet and makes the planet livable for them. And when it finds the perfect mate for them, they say it purrs, which made me think of a cat, which is kind of creepy. But it like vibrates. They call it resonance. It resonates for someone. It's purring like a cat. That's what I had in my head. But anyway, when it purrs for their mate or resonates or whatever they call it, then they know that's their woman. And so what's so important about that is that this particular alien tribe that lives on this ice planet, it's only like 20 of them or something. There's only 4 females in the entire tribe, and their race is dying out. So when he meets a human woman and it resonates for her, it's a big deal because they didn't know they could, resonate for a human. And so it's all about them getting to know each other and getting to know about the planet, and her trying to communicate with him because she doesn't speak his language at first. She has to get like a translator theme-bobber in order to understand his alien language. And obviously it's a romance story. So at the end, they all end up together, but the woman's name is Georgie and the man is Vectal. I actually thought it was a fun story. I gave it 4 stars. Now, I don't usually like sci-fi, but this was a fun story. And I really enjoyed it. It was just a little very light horror. Like, I usually read a lot of dark romance. I want there to be like angst and drama and all that in my romances. So this is not like that at all. This is just really fun and lighthearted. A lot of really good jokes and one-liners in here. But, you know, it's not the type of book I would normally read. So I went ahead and read the second book. A very similar trope. It's Liz and Rashoosh. I don't remember how to pronounce his name. And it was pretty much a rinse and repeat, right? Human woman meets an alien. They're trying to communicate. She's his mate. He doesn't realize it. There's a few twists and turns at the end that make the story slightly different because he's like not liked by his tribe and all this stuff. But it was a lot of the same. And after reading the second book, I was kind of like, I don't know that I really want to continue this series. It's not even that I dislike them. I mean, I might continue the series down the road. This would be a great book to take like on vacation. I'm being serious. Like if you want a vacation book, or like a book you'd read on the plane, or like a book that you want to read on the beach that's just like a fun book that you don't have to think about much, that's kind of like just fun and lighthearted, this is a good series to do that with. Am I dying to sit down and read like all 20-something books in the series? No, but I'll probably keep them, like I said, on my list of like just fun reads I want to take on a trip somewhere, because it'd be a great little book to throw in there and just enjoy. They are fun. So both books I gave 4 stars to. They are fun, and I would recommend them if you like sci-fi and stuff. They are obviously adult romance, so there are some scenes in there, just so you are aware, but it's still a cute, lighthearted story, so I really enjoyed it. All right, book number 7. Is it 7? Well, yeah, 7. Whatever. The next book. I also read on audiobook, and I actually finished it today, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This is absolutely a 5-star read, and the best part, you guys, the best part about this book is a clean romance. More on this later. The Duke's Bride in Disguise by Claudia Stone, and it is a historical romance. You have Ava and Raph, and Ava is an orphan, and then one day she meets this woman who looks exactly like her. And she's like, holy moly, this woman looks exactly like me. They figure out that they must be twins, obviously, because they look exactly alike. And they decide that they're going to trade lives for a while, because she's a poor orphan and her twin is like a woman of the aristocracy, and she's a high-bred lady. So they decide just to trade lives for a while and then figure out how we ended up split and why did our parents give one of us away and all that kind of stuff. There's more to that story, which I will not talk about because I'll ruin the plot for you guys. But let's just say that it was a really good, interesting plot. So in this story, you have Ava pretending to be Lady Emily, who's the twin sister, and Lady Emily is engaged to Raph, and she doesn't want to marry him. She doesn't like him. She's not interested at all. So she says, why don't you pretend to be me for a while and break off this engagement to Raph? But the opposite happens. She meets him and they fall in love. But obviously the, twist in the story is that she's not Emily, she's Ava. And so at the end of the book, that all comes out. And, you can tell it's a romance. You can kind of tell where that goes. But it was such a fun book. The characters were so interesting and likable. And I loved the attitude of Ava and how she was such a positive thinker, but she was also a spitfire and she had a backbone. And you'd think someone being raised poor in London in like an orphanage wouldn't be that way, but she was such a great character. I loved seeing Raph. There is some trigger warnings here for like PTSD, because Raph is a war survivor and he has PTSD, which I really loved how they handled the scenes where he has his PTSD. I just really loved this book, and it was completely clean. There were a few kissing scenes, but like nothing, no naughty words, no naughty bits. It was great, like nothing. So I really actually want to read the next book in this series. I really enjoyed it, and I actually already downloaded the audiobook. So I'm going to start that tomorrow at work. It was so good. Highly recommended if you like historical and if you like romance. And even though it's clean, I didn't miss any of like the more raunchy stuff because I skipped that anyway. And I'm telling you, such a good historical romance. I love it. I can't wait to see what else Claudia Stone has written because this was a really good one. Last book I read was called Vow of Deception by Rina Kent. Now, I gave this one 3 stars. I almost gave it 2 because this was another one that is just not my cup of tea. So here's the thing. It's really good. Like, it's a psychological romance, like psychological thriller / romance, the plot is like phenomenal. Like the actual plot itself is fabulous. Like such an interesting plot. The problem is I don't like the characters. That's the part that I didn't. So it starts off with Winter, who's this homeless girl living on the streets. She's got a whole backstory. And basically she ended up, after becoming an alcoholic, she ends up on the street as a homeless person. Then one day she is, basically picked up by this guy named Adrian, who's in the Russian mafia. And he's like, I need you to pretend to be my wife. And he doesn't give her a choice. He basically says, like, I've framed you for murder. So if you don't go with me, I'm going to turn this information over to the cops and you're going to go to jail for a murder you didn't commit. So she has literally no choice. His wife is dead. And she looks exactly like his wife. He actually calls her doppelganger. If you guys have heard of doppelgangers, there's this theory that, like, you have someone in the world who looks exactly like you. And if you see each other, then the other person dies because you can't be together or whatever. I don't know, something like that. So anyways, he mentions that she's his wife's doppelganger and that she has to pretend to be Leah, who's his wife. And so the whole book is about him trying to, like, make her be the wife, and she's trying to hold on to herself. I'm Winter. I'm not your wife. I don't want to lose my personality. I don't want to lose who I am. But the psychological thriller part of this is that it almost kind of reminded me of, like, maybe it was going to turn into Jane Eyre, because there's these hints that the wife is still alive. And you see these bits and pieces throughout the story of, like, she's alive somewhere. Why is she not with him? Did he murder her? Like, you don't know. And then it ends on a huge cliffhanger at the end where you're like, she kind of has this moment where she's like, wait, but I am Leah. And so you're like, wait, is she really Leah? Is she Winter? It's such like a mind-bending type book. But the romance I didn't love, because in this I know it's a 3-part book. It ends in a cliffhanger. The second book ends in a cliffhanger and all gets wrapped up in the third book. I don't know if I'll continue it. I might, but I didn't really care for him very much. Like, I could tell was just being steamrolled and honestly mentally abused in this book. But I didn't like his character because of that. So I don't know that I would read this book. And it also does have very strong BDSM qualities to it, where he's controlling her in all ways and including in the bedroom. And so I'm not really into that. So I don't think I would continue this, but if you like that sort of thing, this is a really interesting book. I kind of am going back and forth on whether I want to, like, read the next 2 books in the series just to see how it ends, or if I just want to be done with it, because it was really dark and really hard to get through the first book. But I gave it 3 stars just because the whole plot line was just, like, fascinating. With the wife might be alive, and then is she really the wife? Is she not really the wife? Is the homeless person persona all made up? I don't know. Nobody knows. No one knows. No one knows. And I haven't read all the books, so I'm kind of like, I don't know. But then again, tying people up and spanking them is not really my thing, so I don't know that I want to continue the book series. So I don't know. So anyways, that was the books that I've read so far for the first half of this month, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed several of these books. I had a pretty good first half of my month, and we'll see how the next half goes. All right, guys, what have you read for the first half of June? Tell me all about them. Leave me some recs, and we'll see, because I'm excited to see what everyone's reading. I like getting all of my TBR books from you guys. My TBR list is so long, so very long. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. Bye.